time. As I explained already, we asked the mayor to introduce Genk specifically. We sent him the program, and based on the program, he prepared this talk of today. Pablo and I already heard a bit of it, and we're really looking forward to what he will tell to you today. So.
Thank you. Welcome in Genk. It's an honor for me as mayor of this great city, and of course every mayor will tell you that his city is the greatest city not only in Flanders, Belgium, but in Western Europe and the world, of course. It's necessary to say so. I hope you will enjoy the following days in Genk. You started yesterday evening with a nice gathering to come together, and you will have in the International Autumn School some challenges to do, and I hope that I can inspire you during my presentation to give you some ideas to think about. I've chosen for the title of my presentation, The Job of My Life. Not only because I think that mayor is for me the job of my life, but also because I think that a lot of people today are looking for the job of their lives. And those jobs are different than they were in the past. If you look to the history of Genk, and I will come there were people, and it's an experience that I had when I was in charge in an automobile factory, DAF Trucks in Westerlo, where I worked for almost 8 years. And it was a strange story. I became there responsible for one part of the production, and I was 23 years old, and I said, okay, I'm going to work here with team players, and I'm going to give them the opportunities to arrange their holidays themselves, to arrange their work themselves, and I will work together with all of my people, 60 workers that work there, and I thought, yes, let's do it. They will love it, that they can have the responsibility themselves. And after 2 days, a lot of people came to me and said, Wim, we work here. We work here 30 years. We produce 85 products of that every day. We do it good. We do it very good with high quality. And that is what we want to do. We don't want to have the responsibility. We don't want to have all those things. And it was for me as a young worker, as a young leader of a production unit, it was very strange because I thought everybody wants to have responsibility, wants to take it in charge and to do it himself. And it is always for me an element that I take with me in everything that I do, also now as a mayor, because of course work for people is different. They come, one of the persons told me in the factory, I leave my brains at the entrance. That was what he said to me. And he said, I will work here and I do it quality and I do it all right. And indeed, he was a very good worker. He did his work perfectly, and I had never problems with him. He was never ill, but he said, don't ask me to take responsibility. This is what I do, and that what I do. And if I asked him then, what do you do in your hobbies? Well, I'm the principal of a soccer team, and I am the secretary of this. And then I said, it's a pity, because why don't we use those talents together? And I think that is the challenge for the future, and I hope that when I tell you this, the history of our city, that you will see that Genk has had the transitions also in the working or jobs, and maybe it can help you to have the discussions that you will have after Fort, and that you will have how can work be organized in the future by creative influences, by art, by other things. And I hope that there will be some good suggestions where I can learn from, because I think then we have a win-win. The job of my life. If I go to Genk, Genk was before the mining industry a very rural area. Only 1,500 inhabitants lived here, and Genk, but also Limburg, was a very nice landscape, a lot of agriculture. We don't have a rich soil, especially not in this part of Genk, in the south part of Genk. The soil is more rich for rural and for agriculture, but it was the only thing that we had here. There was no industry, there was no there were no other elements to bring welfare to this region. But then in 1901, coal was found, not in Genk, but in As. It's not far from Genk. It's a small village next to Genk. And coal was found. And that was the beginning in this area in Limburg for the first industrial revolution. An industrial revolution what was based upon coal, and you know every industrial revolution is based upon an energy supply, this meaning based upon coal, and also on manual labor, and of course paper was the communication. And Genk was in the first row of those new industries. We had 3 mining facilities. You probably have seen Sea Mine. That was the first mining facility, opened in 1917, so it was opened during World War I. It was the first mining facility that opened here in the region. And then also Waterschei and Zwartberg were opened here in Genk. So we had 3 from 7 mining facilities here in our city. And it brought great prosperity to our city. It brought a lot of people here, and it was also the start of the migration towards Genk. And if you look to Genk, we had 3 waves of migration. The first wave, after that we got everybody from Belgium here, because from all of the provinces people came here to work. We had 3 major waves of migration in our city. The first wave was from Eastern Europe, especially from Poland, but also Czechia, Ukraine and other countries. Even the people from Poland were here before the opening of the mining. We asked them to come here because they had the talents, the knowledge as workers to build mines. And therefore the Polish people were the first to come here even before the opening of the mine. The second wave was from Italy. Belgian government made a contract with Italy for tons of coal. We got people from Italy. Today we call that something else. If you do that, exchange people for coal. But in those times it was formally known. I mean, it was often used in contracts between countries. Up until the disaster of Marcinelle, a little village not far from Liège, where there was a big disaster and 200 people were killed in 1958. And there were a lot of Italian people that were killed. And at that moment, the contract, because of the turbulence it gave in Italy by that many workers that were killed, the contract was stopped. And at that moment, people from Spain, Greece, Portugal also came to Genk. So we had the second wave, mainly from Italy, but also from Spain, Greece and Portugal. And then, starting from 1965, we had the third wave coming here of people that came here to work, because we, Flemish people, didn't want to do the work anymore. There were less people to work here, so that's why we got them from abroad. And of course, the last migration came from Turkey and Morocco. So that were the 3 large migration waves. If you look today to Genk, 55% of our inhabitants are from an other ethnical background. If you look between the 0 and 40 years old, 70% of the people that live here have other ethnical background. They have one thing in common: they're all from Genk. And that is what we all say. Our slogan is, let's Genk together. In Dutch, iedereen Genkt. I want to make a verb of Genk. And if it comes in what we call Van Dalen, it's our national book where all the words in Netherlands are in. If I can bring in the verb Genken, let's Genk together, that is my goal as a mayor, to do so, to make it a new word and to make sure that people work together. As you can see, of course, by bringing in migration to work here, we brought in people that were low skilled. So it was a very large majority of people that came with less skills than normally. If you look to a society, you have a diversity of skills and talents. You need that. You need to have a diversity of skills and talents in your society. And it's still, up until now, a challenge. If I look to the rate of young people that don't have a diploma, of young people that are not educated, it is still one of our major problems today. And the main reason is because the challenge of migration, and I believe it's not, I believe that we did okay, except other people in the world say the migration has failed. I do not agree with that vision. I think that we did okay, but it's hard to cope with because of the language, because of also the identity of people. It's not easy, we know that in Western Europe it's difficult to cope with, but I believe that that's the future, especially for Genk, but also for Western Europe. If you look to the ecosystem in the first industrial revolution, and I think that's very important because it's one of the fundamentals how Genk was built. And the mines, they had a tremendous ecosystem. And it's strange because at that moment, People, the mines, the boss of the mines, I mean the companies of the mines, they did everything for the workers. They almost owned the workers because they gave them from birth up until death everything. They got houses from the mines, they made soccer teams, they made harmonies, cultural organization, they celebrate St. Barbara, they made a casino, not a casino to gamble in, but a casino as a place where they can meet and where they can have, where they can have theater, but also where they can have meetings and gatherings. And so, if you look also with the cathedrals that they built, not only for the, we in Genk have a lot of different religions, and we always gave place to the religions. We have 7 mosques, we have an Italian church, 2 Italian church, we have a Greek church, we have an Ukrainian church, we have, of course, also the Protestant, what's it called in English? Churches, and also the Catholic churches in our city. But they created a real ecosystem where all of the workers worked in. So it is, I think, the vision of the first industrial revolution. The company almost owns the workers. They love to work for the mining, but they didn't have much room to brighten themselves or to develop themselves. It was work in the mine and make sure that the people can have a good life. So that is the first industrial revolution. You can see that these are some houses you can find here, by example, in the city, in the garden cities that are here. One of the cathedrals the mines built for the people. They all invested it. One of our soccer teams, it's the best that we have ever done. We had 2 soccer teams, Winterslag and Waterschei. And after the closure of the mines, we brought them together to KRC Genk. And it's one of the best projects of rehabilitation of the reconversion after the mines, is bringing those 2 soccer teams together. In the mine, everybody was black. Today, everybody is blue-white. That are the colors of our soccer team. At this moment, it doesn't do it. It sucks, to tell you the truth. But I hope it will become better again. We were a very. If you look to the team, in 25 years, it has had a tremendous growth. It's after the 3 top teams in Belgium, it's the 4th top team that has won the Belgium championships for more than 2 times. So, and that only in 25 years of history. So really, it's a success story of bringing things together, and it's definitely an example why I do so. After the closure of the minings, and in 1987, that was one of the things that we feared most. The ecosystem will fall down, and of course, the ecosystem has changed already from the mines, but we were very afraid that all the elements around the workers would fall down and it would create a black hole for a lot of people. So we took over as a local government a lot of things to support people. So we are a very active local government. Some governments, some colleagues from other cities say, you do too much for the people, you should empower them more. But we have chosen 1987 for different reasons to make sure that our society would stick together. And therefore we did quite some social efforts to make sure that society wouldn't fall apart, and that we would make sure that the people would be kept together, that they, with their problems, would find answers, and that we could help them. So we took over the role of the ecosystem. If you then look, and it started in the 60s, of course, Genk also was on the first row of the second industrial revolution. And if you look to labor, it was a different kind of labor than in the first industrial revolution. Of course, it was oil, the energy force for the second industrial revolution. We had companies like Ford and ArcelorMittal. Of course, a lot of automatization. Work changed, especially for workers. And of course brought a lot of wealth, increase in comfort and social impact, and the communication at that moment was broadcast. And you see, if you look to history, that before World War II, there was a vision of the company almost owns its workers. After World War II, you get a more balance between workers and companies, due to unions, due also to the vision on society with the midfield of organizations, by example unions, but also other organizations, especially here in Flanders, that created a lot of manners for people that worked in factories but also could develop themselves with extra training, but also with hobbies, with new interests. So you see that after World War II, we got another way of balancing between the employees and the employers. And that is a change in history that we also felt very well in Genk. Because if you look to the ecosystem in the second industrial revolution, in this region, especially after World War II, you can see that the organizations together with the workers create the ecosystem more than in advance. And you can see that we have a lot of organizations where people were challenged to do more in hobby, in sports, but also in education, in self-education, and that's a difference. In Belgium, we see also the pillarization. You have the pillarization of a lot of organizations around the Christian vision, in Belgium with a very strong union, but also with youth organizations, with sport organizations, with social-cultural organizations, schools and things like that. And so you see that in, especially after World War II, we had a very strong midfield. Even up until now, if you look to Genk, by example, the place where you're in is created by midfield organizations. It's created by people that were involved with the migration of Italian and were helping Italian immigrants to feel themselves at home here in this region. So you can see that especially after World War II, midfield organizations had a very large role in the balance between workers and organizations. If you look these are the typical pictures that you get then. If you look people that standing together to learn to cook, to learn to have social cultural elements. And so it helped to empower people very good. And I think they did a very good job during that period. Of course, today we are on the third, we are in the third or the fourth. It's different, it depends on which view you have to the third or fourth industrial revolution. And the city of Genk at this moment also wants to be on the first row of the third industrial revolution. If you look to the history, with the mines, we were in the first row in this region, 3 mining facilities. Also with the second industrial revolution, with Ford and Aperam, large companies. Ford has closed 8 months ago. I will tell something about that in a moment. And today we are looking, how can we be again on the first row of the third industrial revolution? And in the third industrial revolution, we will work around renewable energy, sustainability. We will work around creativity, and also the communication today is different. It's very different than in the past. And it also has influences to the relation between employee and employer. If I look to how we are developing Genk at this moment, we are using building bricks to build the city for the third industrial revolution. And of course it will be a smart city. It will be a city where people are at home, and it also will be a green city. We believe especially that having green in our city, and Genk is one of the greenest center cities in Flanders, within an area of 1.4 kilometers, every inhabitant has the entrance towards a place in nature of more than 30 hectares. So you only have to walk for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you will enter large parts of natural places that you can walk in around. And we find that very important to also have a green city. But if we want to make a city, we also will need other building bricks. And if you look today to C-Mine for us is a crossover, is the crossroads between creativity and experiences. And it brings 4 pillars together. Education with the Luca School of Arts. It brings cultural with the cultural center. Creative economy with 25 companies, not only in an incubator, but also in other places. And it also brings creative recreation tourism. And those 4 pillars make that C-Mine for us is the building brick of creativity and innovation. And yes, Genk has chosen the path of creativity, not only with C-Mine, but also in the way it works as a city, it works as a community, as an organization. So that's an important building brick. If I look to the site, the other mining facility of Waterschei, today it's called the Torpark. Well, in the Torpark, in a few months, a research center will open around renewable energy where KU Leuven, IMEC and Vito will bring all their energy research that they have in different places together at one place. So with that research of renewable energy, we want to make a new business park around renewable energy, and so we want to take a lead there with that building brick. We work together with Koen van Mechelen. I don't know if you know Koen van Mechelen. He's an international artist that lives in Limburg, and he has chosen Genk for his new atelier and for his work that he wants, of course, to bring out in all of the world. It's not only Genk, it's, I hope, all the world, and even there, above there. Why not? I believe in no, we won't discuss about that sort of life. But we have chosen to work together with Koen van Mechelen because we believe he is very good in social and biological diversity. And we think that he can help us to use the building brick of diversity, something that we in Belgium and Flanders, but also in Western Europe, have difficulties to cope with. And we find it hard to see how can we work in a very diverse world that brings tensions. If you look to today to Western Europe, even to America, you see that there are again tensions between diversity. And we in Genk, I think, are an example that it can work good together. But we want also to make sure that we find the ways of having a society that lives together in a very diverse way, with a lot of ethnical backgrounds, but also with a lot of different talents, a lot of different people that live together. And we believe that Koen van Mechelen can help us doing that. And so you can see, we are looking for new building bricks, also in the medical part with the Ziekenhuis Oost-Limburg, but also on Ford with the new making economy. Ford has closed, and the grounds, the land, will be passed upon the Flemish government in 2 months. So we will be owner as governments of that land, and we want to make sure that if we redevelop the site of Fort, we chose for the new making economy. We still believe that making economy is important for Flanders and for the world. It will be more decentral. We don't believe in companies of 15,000 workers that will come here. Our labor costs are too high, and I always say maybe we should export our unions towards China and other countries so that labor costs will be in all of the world at the same level. And I hope, and one day it will be, because today we see that especially manual work, yeah, it moves very quickly. It moves there where it's cheap. And if you look to different tax systems that are used, by example, a tax shelter, if you look to the film industry, you will see that there where the film industry is very big, there are large tax shelters, there are large government support to bring it there. And it's also in the gaming industry. So you can see, if we don't have a global world where we have global, where we have, how should I say, where we make contracts, maybe contracts is the bad word, but where we say, okay, in a global world, we will try to bring up everybody in his life due to prosperity, and we will bring up a same measure, you will always see that especially intensive labor production will move around the world. And that is what is happening right now. So we believe that at the end, especially if you look also to the footprint, the ecological footprint that distribution and transportation has, and we all want to eat kiwis in the winter or in the summer, but they don't come from Europe. We have to import them from God knows where, I mean from New Zealand and places like that. But if you look to the ecological footprint of that kind of prosperity that we want to have in the world, the question is, can we keep up with that kind of manners, and should we not seek means to do more decentral, to also have the making economy more decentral in the future? And that is where we believe that is again important. So those building bricks, and also by example we are thinking about, should we become the eatable city of the future? It's one of the things you could ask yourself, how will be food and food production in a global context, how will it be organized? And that are questions that we as a local city are asking ourselves, because we see with the closure of Ford, a decision that is taken in Detroit, not in Genk, not in Keulen, but in Detroit, we see that the globalization is everywhere. And even a city as Genk, people that live and work here are influenced or have influences from that global market, and we should take that in consideration. If I look to the third industrial revolution and the situation to labor, to workers, I think that we are creating today a new ecosystem. I say power to the people. I especially use a smiley because I think indeed we are. I don't know the English translation. We are not in times. I'll say it in Dutch and then I'll maybe can translate it. De vraag is of we in een tijd zitten van in een tijdperk van verandering of dat we zitten in een verandering van tijdperk. In English, the question is, are we in a change of?
Are we in an age of change, or
are we in an age of change, or is the age changing? I don't know, but it's not my quote. It's somebody else who said so. But I think I think that we are again on a crossroads in a very important crossroads. If it comes to, by example, the balance between employees and employer. If you look to cooperative organizations, if you also look how can you do transition, Uber, Tesla are very good examples of organizations that challenge others. Probably Tesla won't be the largest car manufacturing in the world in the future, but what Tesla does is making everybody nervous. Every company that produces cars is nervous because of Tesla. And that's Uber also. If you look to Airbnb, 7 years ago it didn't exist. Today it is the second largest hotel company in the world, between Hilton and the other is a name with an M. Marriott. Between Marriott and Hilton, today there is Airbnb, and they don't own any hotel themselves. So the other companies, they have millions and millions of euros in bricks. Airbnb doesn't have a euro in bricks. So, and after 7 years, they're number 2 in the world. So they're changing the world, and I think that you can do that by transition, by participation. In Genk, we have a lot of experience in projects of participation transition. The Genks, and we asked 60 ambassadors to talk with people in Genk, and we talked with almost 3,600 people, and we asked them, how do you think of Genk, and what would you change, and where are the problems? And we built a complete project upon that. Also the G360, we asked 360 inhabitants to think about our future and to make our new plan for the following 6 years. So we are trying to work in new methods. The other markets, Pablo could tell something about that. So we are using that to do so. I think that the challenges, and as I told you, I have the job of my life. I'm looking for a balance between work, free time and family, and today it's only work, but who knows, within 10 years it can also be free time and family. That's not what we want. Most people want to have a balance, and we are not, we are looking today, how can we find that balance? And I think that is the challenge, because ecosystems like the mines, like Ford, and believe me, Ford was an ecosystem. People loved to work there, and they were proud to work there, and they were proud to drive with a Ford car. So they saw themselves as part of a big organization, and people need that kind of structure. A lot of people don't need that kind of structure, but believe me, a lot of people that, remember what I told you 20 years ago when I started working in a factory? Even up until today, young people, a lot of young people say, we just want to work to earn our money and we want to be free for the rest. We don't want to have other relations. Then okay, we'll start at 8 and we'll stop at 4. And we'll do our work, but not more than that. How can we change in a changing society the balance between work, free time and family? We are, of course, we are always connected. Please feel free to tweet or to do anything. I'll retweet it. It's good for my cloud score. You can do a multi-approach, and also boundaries between work and private get blurred. Indeed, I think that there is really a difference today, and I see it in my organization. I ask my management team, why do people still have to use what we call, they have to clock in and out? Why do they still have to do that? Big questions of all our managers say, yeah, but it's necessary. They have to do that. We have to know when they're in and when they're out. I said, why? So it is different to change that kind of ways, and I think we have to think about it. We have to find new ways of organizing our labor, our work. Of course, with respect for the work. If I see new people that work for the city, I say we are a good employer. We give good conditions, but we also ask that you give good work. I think that is the respect that we should have for each other. But if you can combine that with a good balance between work, free time and family, why not? If work is done, and it's done on a qualitative way, why should you work between 9 and 5? Maybe you should work at night. I don't know. It's different for everybody. It is hard in an organization. I have 300 workers that are every day on the roads to clean the roads, to repair the roads. They work in teams. They have to be together, because if they're not with 4 persons together, they cannot work. So it's also a large organization to do so. I want to end with some challenges. See them as questions. Maybe you can give me an answer after 4 days of good and hard work here in Genk. How do you motivate people? Is it by giving them structure or by destroying the structure? Do people need the structure? I think a lot of people need structure. I have 2 little children of 7 and 11, and they need structure. They, if I'm chaotic, they're also chaotic. If they give them a structure, they are at ease and they feel best. And we are all children, if you look to that. So it's a question. Do we will find people to do our dirty jobs? Everybody finds it terrible that there is a lot of litter in the streets. Who will clean the litter in the streets? Will it be robots in the future? Who knows? But it still will be necessary to have people that will have manual hard work also in the future. Today a lot of people are angry that we have a lot of immigrants coming here in building works. It's a discussion that we have here in Flanders, that a lot of people from Poland come and that they work here and that they take in our jobs. You know, that kind of discussion. It's all over Europe today. Well, somebody has to do it. How can you motivate people to still do that kind of work? How we can find ecosystem balances that people are still willing to work? Can they do it up until 65 or 67 years old? Because we all have to work longer. Can you be a hard worker to do so? Make people proud of their company. I find it very important. I find it important to make citizens proud upon our city, but I also find it important that people are proud of the place where they work. You can ask yourself, are the people of Volkswagen today proud of their company? And then I come to what Konings always says, latte, local, authentic, trustworthy, traceable and ethical. Well, I think the company of the future has to be trustworthy. It's very important to make people proud. It also will be the challenge for companies to make sure that workers are still proud. I think so. Maybe I'm wrong. So think about it. Basic income. Should we give the whole world a basic income? And let entrepreneurship be done by everybody. We have in Flanders very bad statistics of entrepreneurship between people. Everybody says here, if you work for the government or work for a big company, that's the way we think in Flanders. My daddy, who was a garage keeper, he worked on cars, he always tell me, go studying so that you can work for a big firm or for the government, then you're sure. That's the way that a lot of people think here in Flanders. It's also the system that we have generated during the years, especially after World War II. If you work for government or for large companies, you're safe. You aren't safe anymore in a global world. So how can we cope with that? Should we do it or don't? There's a lot of discussion about basic income. Entrepreneurship, how can we challenge? Maybe we should become all entrepreneurs. I don't know if you know the mini worker sites. Where you can work for 5 or 10 minutes and where you will be paid for 5 or 10 minutes on the internet. It's a big success. It's growing every year, and you can ask yourself, I have a translations to go, here are 5 pages, everybody does 1 page and I will pay you for that page. It works. It is done on the internet and a company says, I don't use a service anymore, I'll post it on the internet in 5 pages, everybody translates the page, and within the hour, worldwide, I have the translation back. And I'll pay for them. They worked an hour, so I'll pay them a couple of euros. So we are going to new models of economy. And how can we cope with that kind of models of economy? I think that is one of the questions, especially if you look again to the place of people that work. And will they be employed in a company, or will they work for their own? And will they give their services to the company? Is that the model that we want? So I think things to think about. So I hope that I taught you something about our history in Genk, and I hope you will visit our city. We have lovely places to visit, not only Sea Mine, but also other places. And I hope that you will have a little bit of inspiration for the future, and that you think together with everybody here of what will be the balance between work and working, what will be the balance between life, work and free time, and especially how can companies, but also people, can cope with those challenges. I hope you will have a very nice day here the following days. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the mayor? I don't know if you have time. Maybe.
Yeah.
How many years do you still have in power?
Well, I am elected, so it's up to the people how many years I have. I became alderman, deputy mayor, alderman Schepen. I became Schepen in 2002. I became mayor in 2009, and I was re-elected in 2012. So up until January 1st, 2019, if I live that long, I will be mayor of the city. But I still have the passion to do it again for 6 years after that. So we'll see what it gives.
How will you define the third industrial revolution as a success? What are the parameters that will define that your vision on this has been successful?
I think there are different levels of parameters. The first level of parameters that we use is, will Genk still grow? Not only economically, but also with people that live here. Because a lot of regions, we are away from what we call the middle point of Flanders. If you go to Antwerp, Ghent, Leuven and Brussels, you have the triangle there, and that is the center of Flanders. What we see for Limburg and, by example, West Vlaanderen, there's a lot of pressure for people to move there. I think that if we can find an ecosystem around the third industrial revolution, where we can find the balance between work, activities, challenges for people, free time and living, and we can make sure that our city doesn't has less inhabitants than today, that is one of the parameters that I think we have successfully coped with third and fourth industrial revolution, because people will still live here, will work here. So that's a very important parameter. Secondly, it's more a social parameter, that is, can we bring up welfare here in this region? Genk has the highest rate of unemployment in Flanders. 14% of our people are unemployed. Secondly, we also have the second lowest income in Flanders. The average income from a people that lives here is very low. So if we can bring it up, we will bring also up the individual success of those people. I mean, the way that they can live, the way that they work. So that's the second parameter we find very important. Thirdly, and it is more a common ground, can we live together in a very diverse society? And can we make sure that we are an example not only for Flanders but for Western Europe, that ethnical backgrounds doesn't matter? I believe that it doesn't matter. I believe that we all have our talents, that we all can live together, but we should have respect for everybody's identity. And if we can find a model that works very good there, there is still a lot of tension around that, around those elements, especially in, I think, in Western Europe. But I believe that Genk can be a model to do so. And if we can find that living together model, we can be an example for the future. So those three elements, different parameters, if we are successful on those KPIs, then I think we're successful in the third or fourth industrial revolution. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Who are your examples in the world, and which I will have to.
Mm-hmm.
And then, which city would be an example to get?
My examples in the world. Well, I don't read many books. I read many articles. But by example, Simon Simonek. I don't know if you know him. Simonek. His why theory. I find it very inspiring. I also find a lot of companies inspiring, how they work with elements. but also if I look to mayors, by example, here in Belgium, I find, by example, the mayor of Ghent very inspiring. I find also the former mayor of Antwerp, I find him also very inspiring. I had good contact with him. He's now the leader of Patrick Janssens. He's now the leader of, no, he's now the director of the soccer team in Genk. So there is a future after being mayor. So I'm inspired by many things, but I'm also inspired by talking to people here in Genk, by talking to people, people from all talents, all levels, and it inspires me. And what I do most is try to find connections between those things. That is what makes it for me interesting. I read something there, I hear something there, and I try to bring that together. That I find very inspiring. Secondly, if I look to cities, again, I find Ghent a good example, but of course, Genk is too small for the future. 65,000 inhabitants, the scale of Genk, and if I say that in Flanders to my colleagues, they all say, if even Genk is, because there's a big discussion about small communities, small cities in Genk, but if we as a city want to have impact on the ecosystem and we want to have impact on the society in a smart city, we need a larger scale than 65,000 inhabitants. We need a scale of, I think, 100, 120, 130,000 people. By example, like Bruges or like Ghent, 200,000 people, 220,000 people. I don't think it like 500,000 people, that is too big. If I then look worldwide to the cities, I enjoy Berlin, Copenhagen, as examples, New York, I find it also very attractive. So yeah, I think there are a lot of cities where we should think of how can we translate it to our own DNA. Because I think, don't spoil your own identity. Be local, be authentic. So we have to see what other cities do, and we have to translate it to the Genk way. Let's Genk together. It's translating what we see to how can we embed it locally authentic. I find it very important, because then you're trustworthy, not when you copy. You can copy, but you should give your own soul in the copying of things, and then I think you're doing it right, but it's my idea.
And what is for you a smart city?
To improve the quality of life for people and for visitors. Doing that by making sure that we don't use the natural resources too much, and that we use innovation and technology as an enabler. That is for me a smart city. But it starts for the quality of life of people. It doesn't start from technology. It starts from quality of life for the people. And I think we are again in a crossroads in time that we can use technology innovation to make sure that we don't abuse natural resources and that we lift up the quality of life for people. That is, I think, the most important thing for a mayor to do so. I always say, if they ask me, what do you want to do? I want to realize dreams. That is why I'm a mayor. And I want to do that for every inhabitant in our city. And if I can help to make come true dreams, I think I am doing the good things.
But what if their dreams are not your dreams?
Well, I think if you dream alone, it is a dream. But if you dream together, it becomes reality. So if you want to make sure that a dream comes true, you will have to find people that dream the same way. And maybe it's not the way that I dream. I dream in color, so I have a very bright way of thinking about that. And I think that if you can find dreams, and of course not violence dreams and things like that, but that's logical, but if people find themselves around dreams, even it's not my dream, I think, and the dream is okay and it's a good thought, I think we should support them. And maybe I have to change my dreams then. Because if you don't do that, you're not building a society, you're building your society, but a society is always common for everybody. And that's a very, I think, a very important element. You can only do it together. Okay, yeah.
Has the municipality thought at any point about participatory budgeting?
About participatory?
Budgeting.
Yes, we do so. So we have, at this moment, neighborhoods can bring in ideas and we give them the money to do the ideas. At this...
A lot
Yeah, at this moment it's only 2,500 euros that they can ask for a project that they want to do. I think we have had 10, 15 projects already in that kind, and we are now looking. We are now looking to two new things. Can we give larger budgets that they can do themselves? There's a lot of resistance in my administration, but I think we can cope with that. And secondly, can we give them the authority, not the power, the authority, it's a difference, the authority to, by example, choose their budgets for us to do in their neighborhood. So that they can say, okay, that we say, good, the budget for your neighborhood is 1 million euros that we will invest in infrastructure. What should we do first? Or what would you like to be done, and how would you like it to be done? It's also some resistance, but we're working on it every day. So we believe in the models of participatory budgets, definitely. But start small and then let it grow. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.